I saw this video pop up and I really wanted to watch it. Final Fantasy Endwalker from a perspective of a WoW refugee. I am a WoW refugee through and through. Like, I really fucking am. So I am very, very curious as to what this has to say. I want to see how relatable this is. You played WoW? Yes, dude. Look, there's Gorehowl in the background right there. My entire channel is themed around World of Warcraft. Have you noticed all the orc sub badges and the emotes? Have you noticed? Have you? Hold on. Oh well, there you go. There's that's the intro there, but that's me wearing my orc costume while playing WoW on my fucking orc right
Hi.
there. I'm invested. Yeah, I am, and I made the jump to Final Fantasy because it's just been such a fucking good game that has been ticking my boxes. So I'm really fucking curious to see what this has to say.
Nowadays, it's a good time to be an MMO fan. With plenty of games for us to choose from, it's easy to sit down with any MMO on the market and say, hey, I love that as a gamer, I can sit down and play any MMO ever because they're all great.
No. He's right. To be honest, it's kind of surreal how many fucking MMOs are out at the moment. Because there's Final Fantasy, which is obviously the big one right now. Fucking New World came out. That was big for a bit, but it's kind of died out. World of Warcraft. Lost Ark is coming in a couple of weeks to Western areas. So there's that. There's ESO. Like, there are so many more options of MMOs to play. It is actually kind of weird. It's kind of weird to just even have options, and there's definitely a big war between which one's the best. But I want to see. I want to see what this guy has to say.
Okay, now that I got rid of all the disgusting casual MMO players who probably clicked off by now, I can get down to what this is really about.
Filthy
Everyone knows that,
casuals.
like society, there's an MMO hierarchy, okay?
I mean, what was that last one? What was that last one?
Everyone knows that, like society, there's an MMO hierarchy, okay?
What the fuck was that? Undying Light?
Okay? And
Oh, Underlight.
every
I've
hierarchy
never heard of that.
has a top. But at the top of our hierarchy, there are two games fighting over the top spot: World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah,
With the
true.
recent BS going on,
Even though, like, New World, a brand new fucking MMO, being produced by a multi-trillion-dollar company, Amazon, that is like fucking claiming the entire fucking world right now, and these two games are still doing better than it. New World came out too early. They needed to do more to it. I think New World in like another year might be playable after some more development. Elder Scrolls Online be like I exist. I know a lot of people that love Elder Scrolls Online actually. I know a lot and I played a lot of it myself. It is a fun game, but at the end game, it didn't have enough to hold me.
at Blizzard, Square Enix managed to snag quite a few WoW players with their promise of a new home and hot anime waifus for all those naked, thirsty orcs. But what about hot anime waifus for all those naked, thirsty orcs?
Why did it have to be Garrosh, man? Why did it have to be the one character that I based my entire channel on? This has honestly hit way harder than it should have.
But what about Final Fantasy XIV is so enticing to WoW players that switched? Well, the best way to answer that question is to break down what really makes an MMO interesting: the story, the combat, and the PvP. The The benefit of being a Final Fantasy game is that it not only has decades of quality storytelling to pull from, but also that Final Fantasy already has a massive following, because they're the go-to games for playing a compelling story with iconic characters and scenes. In comparison to World...
Yeah, I mean, you know what's funny? Back in the day, like one of my friends was really into the Final Fantasy games, and he told me that like there was a absolute shit ton of cinematics and stuff. So much so that it almost seemed like you were watching a movie instead of playing a fucking game. And sorry about the chat box, it's a bit scuffed. Um, and that deterred me from ever trying a different Final Fantasy game. It didn't feel right to me. It really didn't feel right to me. But that kind of put me away from Final Fantasy games, even FF14. But he is right about the fact that because we're coming into the game so late from other MMOs, like WoW, that I came in Shadowbringers, so there was Heavensward, Stormblood, Shadowbringers, and Realm Reborn. So there was like 4 tiers of fucking content to get through that you could just binge through like some sort of new fucking TV series. You know, you just sit there and you don't move and you consume. You know, it's like, oh my god, cliffhanger. I don't have to wait like 2 years for the next thing. It's like I could just do the next quest. You know, I haven't seen the furry argument. Looks Torin Wargans. Oh, there are way more furries in WoW. 100%. 100%, man. 100%.
World of Warcraft, there's no contest. Final Fantasy has a solid foot in the storytelling department and puts World of Warcraft to shame with the quality of writing. Now, don't get me wrong. Warcraft has deep lore, but at times it feels unorganized with its storytelling, especially in recent times. However,
Yeah, dude, look. It's true. And it's like there's shit in WoW that is just like way too overdone and sometimes even requires you to like have extra knowledge from reading books and shit like that to understand why things are happening. Like, so I got 2 of the WoW books right here that I read. Like I went to that extent and did it, and I still don't know what the fuck is happening in the main storyline, and it doesn't feel fulfilling. It's annoying, and there's a bit of controversy behind some of the writers, especially Christy Golden. And it just kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth. You know? If you want to better understand WoW lore, you better set aside a week just to binge watch novel videos. I used to watch novel videos all the fucking time. Those were great. That is how I caught up on WoW lore. Those were great. I love them so much. I feel WoW lore doesn't make sense compared to other WoW lore, so it's a mess. I think WoW lore is pretty fucking confusing all the way through, but I think like trying to compare like Endwalker to Shadowbringers specifically, it's kind of like in WoW there's this problem where it's like a master plan of a master plan of a master plan, and these characters are like, oh, I have a master plan that trumps your master plan, and they're like, no, I have a master plan that trumps your master plan, you know. And it's kind of just like I don't know, when are we gonna get some fulfillment, some answers? I don't know.
However, the one thing I do like about World of Warcraft, specifically in earlier WoW, is that you aren't the center of it all. In the early expansions, you feel like a grunt in some aspect. You're part of a story and are attached to characters that can easily just kick your ass at any time.
Yeah. And to kill them, you would need to group up with like fucking 100 people to take them on, right? You are the peon in the story. Like, you help things happen and stuff, but you are not like the main guy. Final Fantasy does the same thing where you're the main guy now, but they execute it better. Just plain and simple.
You are the center of it. The story revolves around you, and they let you know that. World of Warcraft does still
Yeah.
Offer quality storytelling with its
WoW does
earlier
this in late expansions, I just said that.
expansions like Legion and Mists of Pandaria, but I think the main draw to Final Fantasy for a lot of World of Warcraft players is that it's something different. It's compelling, and it's by a team that delves deep to pull you in as a player and keep you immersed in the world.
He's about to go into the combat, but I think modern day WoW players, like the core component of WoW is the end game and just the end game. Like the storyline stuff doesn't take too long to get through. Like there's a little bit there, but you have to wait like 2 years to like really get the whole picture of it. Or Final Fantasy, it's day one you get access to it, right? So most of the time, it's just the end game stuff, like grinding Mythic Plus dungeons and pushing them, and then doing raiding, and then like PvP and shit like that. And I feel like people from WoW are so used to like just doing that and trying to, climb higher in Mythic Plus or get their ranking in Arena or try and, do raiding and try and beat like Heroic or Mythic or whatever. I think the biggest thing is with hopping over to Final Fantasy is that it is like a substitute good where like it has the most similar combat system to WoW, and people see the cool big bosses. Like I saw the big bosses and I was like, that looks pretty cool and it looks similar to WoW. I want to try that. And then it wasn't until like I started playing through the storyline and stuff, like I was like, man, this is a big core component of the game that I've just been completely missing out on, that I feel. Like I don't even register it. It's just like in WoW, it's just like the grind. The fun part is the grind, but the actual storyline, the MSQ, is the journey that I forgot to enjoy. And it just takes me by surprise. And then by the time I get through the journey up to the grindy bit, which I'm doing now, I enjoy it for what it is. I'm like, man, I'm up to the big shit now, you know? I'm up to the big shit now. Sometimes in FF, I think I'm not the main character in the story. Like, it didn't really do much, but I got all the credit anyway, and that's why LSA is always so angry. It's hard to compare combat with dozens of add-ons and weak auras. 14 relatively unmodded combat. Yeah, I definitely appreciate that, that's for sure. I don't miss DBM and get the fuck out yelling at me in raids. Yeah, true, dude. My fucking god. GTF are yelling at you.
I'll be honest, aside from World of Warcraft and Guild Wars 2, I have yet to find an online game that nails the flow of combat in a fun way while providing challenge. And if there's one thing that keeps players coming back to World of Warcraft, it's the fluidity of the combat.
For
Even
sure.
after playing Final Fantasy.
For sure. WoW has a lot of problems right now, but the fluidity of the combat is fucking spot on. The only thing that I could say is a bit difficult at times with WoW combat is that in raids with overlapping abilities, being hard to see and judge, and like having your camera go up against walls and shit like that, depending on the fight and everything like that. And then like looking at Final Fantasy with like these 10,000 different colors, I'm like so overwhelmed at first. I'm like, oh my god, how the fuck could you tell what's going on? But it's actually, when I started playing Final Fantasy, it's the other way around, where I can actually tell what the fuck is going on by seeing all the separation. But WoW still has very fluid combat. WoW combat has always been smooth. Yeah, it has been. It has been. Balancing, not so much. Fluidity, though, yes.
I still feel like World of Warcraft has the upper hand here. Now, before you scroll down and leave a spicy comment, I'm not saying Final Fantasy at all has a bad combat system. Final Fantasy's combat is a worthy contender to World of Warcraft and Guild Wars 2. It's a bit more strategic in a sense, and it's a bit slow in the early levels, but once you get your spells and attacks unlocked, it's a frenzy of rotations and colors that would make a grown man cry. However, World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy don't really have comparable combat because the flow of each is so different, but it's equally fun. If you enjoy battles in World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy will be an experience for you, even if it takes some time to get on its feet.
World of Warcraft combat in raids is more like RNG based, and sometimes, most of the time, it'll overlap. So it's like overlapping RNG mechanics that people have to have a certain amount of knowledge on beforehand, or like as they learn and progress through it. So it's like you have to kind of react to shit happening on the fly. There are definitely scripted parts and different phases and etc. etc. But I feel like it is much more RNG based, and a lot of it with like heroic and especially mythic. If one RNG thing is fucked up, everyone's dead. Now I haven't done proper savage raiding. I'm not yet at fucking ultimate, that's for sure. So I cannot give my perspective on that. But Final Fantasy stuff definitely has a more scripted feeling to it. Like you can kind of prepare yourself for it, and it's a bit more simplistic with like, okay, there's that color, okay, I go there. And that is a bit of RNG, but it's not like three people have a debuff on them and the only way you can tell is from like a little symbol on their thing, and then like fucking everyone overlaps, and then fucking everyone's running around and like, oh shit, there's actually like things falling from the ceiling as well, but there's no like just super clear thingy on the ground, you know. It adds up. It adds up to me. You say that, but FF also has lots of classes, maybe not specs. Yeah, but it doesn't seem like they can really compare to Final Fantasy, because it's like there are clips of Ian saying like, "Oh, well, it's like fucking demonology warlock." It's like, "Oh, it's just your time to be bad." There's like an actual clip of him just like saying like, "Oh, they just don't care. Um, your class is super bad." And they think it doesn't matter, but it's like it influences the way people play, because it's like, okay, I really love this class, but it's so shit that no one will invite me to the group, so I am forced to play a different spec that I don't want to play to be able to play, and therefore I'm not having fun while playing, and kind of like shits on the experience. But Final Fantasies like damage output and stuff is much more closer, is it's way closer. So you can have the freedom of playing what you want to more so than WoW, I feel. Both games are at the core of my gaming life. As much as I dislike WoW now, I'll never look back and say I had a bad time. It's definitely a core part of my gaming life, but there have been bad times for me. I can say that.
Even die-hard Final Fantasy fans cannot deny
Yeah, Bruce.
that PvP in Final Fantasy isn't good. There's no oop, 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 before you comment. But yes, here it's nothing compared to World of Warcraft. WoW at times feels like it's
Why
developed
did
from
it
the
have to
ground
be
up,
Garrosh,
with a
man?
focus on PvP, and that's what's preserved the game for so many years, for me at least. But I will admit,
Wait. What did he say?
Warcraft. WoW at times feels like it's developed from the ground up, with a focus on PvP, and that's what's preserved the game for so.
Nah. The PvP in WoW is definitely better and more fleshed out, but I think if you ask the WoW PvP community, I think they can tell you the complete opposite of that. I'm just saying, I have not heard the PvP community be happy with changes since fucking Cataclysm. It was that long ago. There are so many problems from the start of the expansion of Shadowbringers, of like classes like Retribution Paladin just like one-shotting people and shit like that, that still exists today. Just like really fucked shit that has still not been fixed. So I like this guy, but I just Rex Choice a great example. He's great, but I think the WoW PvP is more fleshed out and better as like a byproduct of what they've done with PvE in the game, but it's not something like to be proud of, to be honest. Not really. It's kind of iconic to the game, the world PvP. It is. I feel like it used to be. Being able to go slap some baby alley. Yeah. I think in classic WoW, yes. And like the older versions of the game. But no one really does world PvP in modern day retail WoW. Not really.
So many years, for me at least. But I will admit that Endwalker's additions to PvP modes do look very promising, especially with the 4v4 mode. But we'll see in the coming months when that
Yes.
update launches. So, with all this taken into consideration, what is the exact reason that World of Warcraft players choose Final Fantasy as their next game? Well, for some, it's a different hard hitter in the genre, and there aren't many other titans out there that can pull the numbers that these two pull, and for good reason. But what it's
Yeah, true. What were those other games? Destiny 2. That's a shooter MMO kind of thing. You have to specifically want that. Old school RuneScape, man, it's like props to you. Like I know it's probably like a fun adventure, but man, it's too outdated for me. Warframe, it's kind of the same thing with Destiny 2. It's like so niche, there's just not really a contender. New World isn't really the same kind of MMO as WoW, Final Fantasy, ESO, and Guild Wars 2. I think the next like clear newcomer to the same is going to be Ashes of Creation, but that's still fucking ages away. Ages away. Don't get them big city raids anymore. Yeah, no, exactly. Those used to be crazy to see on YouTube. Like you'd go into YouTube of WoW and you would have like these massive raids and it'll say like fucking what's it called? It'll like have like a transparent saying like cam in the cam.com or something like that. And it'll be like a square screen with hundreds of people and it'll be blasting bodies by Drowning Pool. Let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor. And they'll go attack the fucking the other faction's lead back in the day. But yeah, I think they're just it's a substitute good for WoW players. Final Fantasy is a substitute good for WoW players, and that's why it's the easiest thing to cross over to because all the others are just so niche. Like even ESO is like a completely different like fighting style. It's still like the same, but the combat is like something that you have to specifically want to try and experience.
There aren't many other titans out there that can pull the numbers that these two pull, and for good reason. But what it's truly about is what it's always been about for every one of those games out there. Anime booba.
I mean, okay, that was a good video. I like that. That was a good video. But yeah, there's a lot to it, man. There's a lot to it, and I just hope that Blizzard sees all the good things about Final Fantasy, and instead of taking it personally, implements those good ideas into their game to make it better.